I still remember a time when I was in primary school back in early 90s. I would come back from school just in time to turn on one of the very few forest programs, namely Dragon Ball animated series. It was a big deal back then. Every young boy was watching it, at least as far as I can recall. Later in school or on the streets of our little town, we would try to replicate the moves we've seen in the anime and kick the living shit out of each other. Well, as hard as little kids could. So no one was really hurt in the process, at least not severely. I remember the time fondly, but here we are. Over 3 decades later, with another monkey tail hero, and a story to tell. Maybe that's an odd thing to start with, when reviewing the game with story much closer to the original Chinese legend of Journey to the West. I've got to admit that it's been a while since the last time I engaged with something meaningful for the culture on display here. Main story is very strange. If you ever watch Chinese fantasy film, you kinda know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you are in for quite a ride, let me tell you that. My hands are kinda tied here, and my lips are sealed, so you can experience the storytelling of this game for yourself, as it is experience like no other that could come to my mind right away, and even after a longer thought given. Interestingly enough, there are several types of animations in the pre-render cutscenes that play between chapters. The craftsmanship is amazing. I still remember seeing such things on TV when I was a very young man. Nowadays you can see things like this only on historical and cultural channels, sadly enough. I guess the showrunners of modern TV truly picked the path leading to idiocracy. So if I am not willing to talk about the story presented in Black Myth Wukong, despite the fact that I am a storyteller myself, we should engage in discussing the gameplay of this highly praised title. So starting with the most important thing, combat is fluid and fun, but when you press a button and you realize that you made a mistake, oftentimes it's too late to change action and your monkey will execute the attack animation, so it feels unresponsive when you are not careful enough with pacing of button pressing. In this sense, the game resembles the rhythmic games, where not the tempo but the rhythm and fluidity of your actions matter the most. It is really a song that plays and you have to dance to it. It is a beautiful and graceful spectacle of animations. What's really good about the combat is the fact that you have several simple moves to use and a limited number of combo attacks, which require thinking and a decent level of encounter awareness in order to execute well. I like the simplicity combined with mastery. Too many times in modern games we get countless combat options that don't mean much and are hard to remember. In Wukong it's a breath of fresh air using the good old methods of ancient games. One of the things that I liked is the fact that you can dodge anytime you want, but parry and counter can only be executed during combo attacks. You don't need to observe red or yellow sparks to know which one you're gonna use. You decide for yourself all the way and all the time here. There is a nice touch where when you place melee enemies in front of you, they will get shot by their ranged friends. I really like that. Long story short, combat is excellent and I would not trade it for any other, and that's the first time I have ever said something like this, so kudos to the developers from Game Science Studio. They have achieved truly GOAT status when it comes to the satisfying combat experience in a video game. I am glad to see many various enemy types that don't only differ in how they look, but also in how they behave. The amount of bosses, sub-boss and mini-boss enemies is astounding. It's in stark contrast to so-called modern gaming, in which copy and paste is used to the sickening degree. Bravo again. The only problem is boss difficulty curve that is all over the place. Many bosses are easy, some are moderately challenging, but some of them are on the very high skill level to beat without cheesing. I mean, it's good to have easier and harder bosses, but the skill level difference to beat some of them is just astronomical. Even one of my acquaintances who plays Counter-Strike on very high competitive level said that it's ridiculous indeed. All bosses except 2 I managed to beat in a good time, measuring in minutes, but those 2, man, The first of them took me over 2 hours and the second one over 3 hours. It was the fourth phase of the final boss that kicked my ass so hard. Yes, you heard me right, fourth phase. That was some insane sweat gaming indeed. I had no idea that I will do something like this again in my life, as I tend to play on normal difficulty in my advanced age. Yet here we are, feeling like a little bit of youth in all lengths after all these years. But I am talking nonsense, so let's get back on the track. What's left to talk about in the gameplay section of this review are progression systems. There are 3 upgrade trees that you will invest your hard-earned sparks points in. They are pretty standard, nothing new here to be honest, but the options to change your moment-to-moment gameplay are truly meaningful and, the best of all, fun to experiment with. I was pleasantly surprised to learn that there is a gear progression in the game, and I always like getting new gears, so we are at home right on. We got different weapons with upgrade paths, armor sets, trinkets and unused items that will build your monkey how you see fit. Overall, minute-to-minute gameplay was so good that I didn't even want to make notes most of the time. I just wanted to play some more, and maybe that's the best thing about this title. You just play it and you want to play it more and more. Well, maybe not if you are a failed game journalist and the game only leaves you in frustration, because you cannot progress very far in the direction of west, but that's not here nor there. Now let's take a glimpse on the technical side of Wukong, as it was main point of conversation in years leading to release of his highly anticipated game. And yes, visually it looks really good on almost all settings, excluding the lowest ones, where it gets rid of most lights and shadows, which looks terrible, so it is not recommended to use them or even on low-end PCs. In cutscenes there is one ugly thing that kept on creeping in, namely problem with transparencies combined with depth of field. It looked very bad at times. Still, the masterful use of depth of field adds plenty of quality to those cutscenes, so I would not have it removed by any chance, even if it means some ugly artifacts here and there. The other gripe I had with visual presentation was black levels, which are raised for no good reason, so the dark inside some areas looks washed up, despite the brightness level set in calibration submenu. Despite overall great visuals, you can clearly see it's an Unreal Engine title from all the imperfections we know from it, like lumen bugs, traversal stutters when loading another fragment of current level and so on. Another visual flaw would be low resolution textures and maps on objects too often for my taste. I don't know if it was a bug or by design, but still a little bit out of place for such a good looking title. Performance is quite good for an Unreal Engine 5 game. It is not on the level of Arc Raiders, but it is not that far away. Audio side is very good too. Music, as you can hear in the background, is very fitting to the setting, and it releases just right emotions in any given moment. I am glad and satisfied. Game sounds are fitting and juicy as well, so you are not thrown away from this oriental fantasy at any moment. Well, maybe in cutscenes when there is a shader compilation and desync between audio and rendered picture. Other than that, it's all fine. Game took me around 30 hours to finish, and I feel it's just right amount of gameplay for such a title. I am surprised that Black Myth Wukong was such a treat to my childhood memories, combined with modern, fluid and top-notch gameplay. What a treat indeed. Even if the game is very uneven when it comes to the difficulty curve, I still need to encourage every Souls-like fan to play it. It's kinda mandatory at this point. Was the Black Myth Wukong robbed of any Game of the Year awards? I don't think so, but for sure, it's a game worth playing by any means. It's just that good, and will be remembered fondly by millions and millions of gamers for many years to come. And speaking of coming, the Game Science Studio put out trailer for their next Black Myth game not so long ago. So we can expect more good things to come away from the East. With that positive accent, I bid you farewell, and I will see you next time in yet another Great Late Review.